Hey there, guess what? We are on the last chapter of our 13 colonies unit. Hey, that's pretty exciting. So today we're going to read about William Penn and the Quakers. An important letter. William Penn sat at his desk in his large house in England. Let me a little bit more. Hold on a second there. He looked at the charter on his desk. The King of England had signed the charter. It was dated 1681. The charter gave William Penn the right to start a colony in America. The name of the colony would be Pennsylvania. That means Penn's Woods. Penn thought about the charter and remembered the day the king gave it to him. Before he left England to go to America, Penn decided to write to the Indians who lived in his new colony. First, Penn told the Native Americans that he and his colonists would sail to America soon. They planned to arrive in the summer of 1682. Next, Penn told the Native Americans that he knew that the English colonists had mistreated them in the past. He promised that the Pennsylvania colonists would be kind and fair. Any colonists who harmed the Indians would be punished. Colonists and the Native Americans, he said, should always live together as friends and neighbors. So those are nice intentions to start off a colony, and that was wonderful of him to reach out. Penn ended his letter by saying that he had a great love and respect for the Native Americans and hoped to win their love and friendship. Quaker beliefs. William Penn was a Quaker. The Quakers belonged to a religious group called the Society of Friends. The Friends believed that all people were equal and should be treated with respect. The Quakers did not believe that they were better than the Native Americans. They did not think that the colonists' way of living was better than the Native Americans' way of living. The Quakers did not believe that the aristocracy was better than other people. But the aristocracy of England did not agree. So the aristocracy is essentially like the upper class, the wealthy part of England society, and mostly the decision makers as well. People who belonged to the aristocracy thought that they were better than other people. They expected everyone to bow to them and call them my lord or my lady. Quakers would not bow to anyone. They addressed everyone, including lords and ladies, with a simple thee and thou. This was considered very old-fashioned language, even in the 1600s. Because the Bible says, thou shalt not kill, the Quakers believed all wars were wrong. The Quakers would not join armies or fight in wars. The Quakers' way of worship was very different from worship in the Church of England. The Quakers did not have ministers who gave sermons. When the Quakers met in their meeting houses, they prayed silently. During the meeting, anyone who felt inspired by God could stand up and speak to the others. The Quakers had many enemies in England. Some thought that they were troublemakers. Others disliked them because they were just so different. The government disliked them because they said war was wrong and the Church of England was angry about their religious ideas. Many Quakers were put in prison for their beliefs. So remember, they are another religion that is treated unfairly or persecuted in the land that they're living. Some were whipped or had their ears cut off. Life in England had become harder and harder for the Quakers. William Penn, the son of a very rich and important man, decided to join the Quakers. He became one of the best known Quakers in England. He wrote many articles and books about the Quakers. Because of his Quaker beliefs, Penn was thrown into jail several times. Penn thought that there was no hope for Quakers to live peacefully in England. He decided they would have to leave. Penn had a great idea. The King of England owed Penn's father a lot of money and couldn't pay it back. Right? He was in debt to him. We learned about that. Young Penn told the king that he didn't have to pay back the money. Instead, the king could just give him land in America, a lot of land. The king liked that idea. He could keep the money and get rid of William Penn and his strange Quaker friends. So he gave him what is now the whole state of Pennsylvania. William Penn was a good person to lead a colony. He was a lawyer and a town planner. He also was a just man who treated all people fairly. Penn said his colony would be a holy experiment. By that, he meant that Pennsylvania would be a place where Quakers could try to live in harmony according to Quaker beliefs. Penn opened his new colony to people who were not Quakers too. He promised religious freedom for everyone. To advertise his colony, Penn printed booklets promising religious freedom for everyone who settled in Pennsylvania. Penn gave booklets about Pennsylvania to Quakers and non-Quakers. He sent booklets to people all over Europe. He offered to sell them land at a fair price. Hundreds of people wrote back and bought land in Pennsylvania. Penn helped design Pennsylvania. He drew a plan that looked like a checkerboard, like you see here. He laid out the streets in that pattern. He gave numbers to all the streets going in one direction, much like we have addresses now. Penn gave tree names like Pine and Walnut to streets that crossed and numbered ones. He put in a central square where people could meet. He planned many parks and gardens. Penn did not have walls or stockades built around Philadelphia. He said it was a city where everyone should live in peace and understanding. Soon, other colonial towns used Penn's plan as an example of how to build a city. Philadelphia grew so quickly that the colonists could not build houses fast enough. Some colonists had to live in caves along the banks of the Delaware River while they built their houses. William Penn soon returned to England. He spent less than 4 years of his life in Pennsylvania. He spent most of his time in England defending the rights of the settlers in Pennsylvania. Remember, he's a lawyer. Soon, people from many countries in Europe settled in Pennsylvania. They came for religious freedom. They came because they could afford to buy land. They also came because the colony was at peace with the Native Americans. They came for the mild climate and the rich farmland. They came for the promise of good trade. Also, in the Delaware River Valley near Pennsylvania, there were 2 other middle colonies, New Jersey and Delaware. In these places, even before William Penn began his Pennsylvania colony, there had been Dutch and Swedish settlements. When England took over New York, the king had made New Jersey an English colony too. At the beginning of the 1700s, some Pennsylvania settlers who couldn't get along with William Penn formed the new colony of Delaware. It didn't take long for Philadelphia to become the most important city in all of the colonies. Philadelphia was a busy port and trading center. Land in Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey was fertile. Farms prospered in all 3 colonies. Farmers sold their crops in Philadelphia. Ships loaded with flour, grain, and dried fruit sailed to other ports in the colonies and across the Atlantic Ocean to England and Europe. Because there was so much trading in Philadelphia, there were many kinds of jobs. People worked as tailors, carriage makers, glassmakers, teachers, printers, booksellers, and lawyers. As Philadelphia grew, the city built paved streets and raised sidewalks with curbs. At night, lamps burned whale oil to light the main streets. Most people in Philadelphia lived in small brick houses, but in the 1700s, a few wealthy people lived in big houses filled with beautiful furniture and art. Because of trade and the mixing of cultures, Philadelphia became a great center for new ideas. As time went on, people in Philadelphia started a college, a theater, America's first hospital, a museum, a public library, and a scientific society. By 1776, when the American colonies rebelled against British rule and declared their independence, Philadelphia was the largest city in the 13 colonies. In fact, except for London, it was the largest English speaking city in the whole world. And that concludes our unit on the 13 colonies. Alrighty, everyone. Enjoy. I will enjoy seeing your keynote slides come in. Alrighty. Bye.